Recording in progress.
Time to continue. Let's take it directly to practice. Feel your body, let energies flow. One of the basic healing practices that we have is a reverse suppression, which means the opposite of suppressing emotions. So the emotions that we have suppressed, we when we do that over a long period of time, they kind of with pressure get stuck in the body, in the actual physical cells, as well as astral body, creating these tightly, kind of like pressurized, I'm at loss of words here, but you understand that they get stuck in the bottom. So reverse emotional suppression is that we let and learn to let energies flow. It can feel clunky in the beginning. It might feel that even if I really relax and allow energies to start moving, not much is happening, but that's part of getting it started. And this happens in the beginning that there might not be that much movement exactly because they have been suppressed and pressurized and pushed down to create this firm field of stuck energy. So it might take a little bit sitting and practice to learn how to let it flow, how to do emotional suppression in reverse. But then the energy starts moving, the energy starts flowing, and you can feel it. You can really feel that, okay, now I feel something is flowing in a way that wasn't before. And this in turn leads to, like I often say, let energies flow freely. Free flow. Free flow. And what does free flow mean? It doesn't mean that, okay, now these suppressed emotions and negative mind state and selfish mind states are coming up and now they, okay, shoo, shoo, go away. Now you want them to fly away from you. No. Free flow means that you simply allow the stuff in your system to start moving freely, like it should be. Characteristic to both self-delusion on the boomy side of things and trauma and selfishness on meridian side of things is that things get stuck, that there are these knots that are created in certain locations that hinder free flow, stop free flow at places. And this is what actually causes our, delusions, existential confusion, existential pain, negativity in both nadis and meridians. All these patterns of selfishness and trauma in the meridians. That's how it actually happens. And here again, when we practice reverse suppression and learn free flow, it is essential to understand that, well, sometimes you might have a sit that you feel that nothing much happens. Even if you let energies flow freely, not much sensation, not much happening, and that is perfectly fine. But at the same time, it is very important to understand that whatever type of sitting we practice, we discussed non-meditation, Hatha Yoga earlier, and here we are discussing free flow, which is totally, completely related, has everything to do with non-meditation. Whatever type of sitting, it is not passive. It is not passive. Because basic awareness itself, our own inherent awareness, our own inherent nature, is not passive. It doesn't mean that it's active doing something all the time, but it's actively present, not passively absent. There's a big difference there. So, actively present, but also effortlessly present. I was discussing earlier on this retreat about opening of the 11th bhumi and how significant it is, because it, like I used the analogy that it opens a window in a house where fresh air keeps coming in all the time, instead of the window going shut and then stale air accumulating inside the house. Always remember that you have pure nature, Buddha nature, that you actually are Christ-like, and that you have the same potential as your favorite masters, and that it is possible to sort out everything from the beginning to the end of it, to the bottom, throughout the whole system, complex of subtle bodies. It is possible. Sometimes it can be son of a bitch, a total bloody disaster, can be a total drag, can make you exhausted and tired and pissed off and sad. But all of that comes and goes. Take refuge. 3 refuges, 5 refuges. Which really means taking refuge in our own pure nature. Our own, which is everybody's pure nature. The pure nature of everything. Take refuge in that. Refuge means finding or placing yourself in a safe place, where you are safe and protected and supported. We can understand that if we don't take refuge, what then? We have these internal struggles and obstructions and immense anger and immense lustful desire and all kinds of things. And if we don't have refuge, and if we don't grab, figuratively speaking, poetically speaking, the lotus feet of the Guru, then, very wobbly, very difficult to sort out things. But taking refuge is like getting some contact with the bedrock that doesn't shake. Taking refuge in Guru, Mahasiddha Guru, is first and foremost in Tantra. On the Buddhist side of Amrita Mandala, we have Guru Padmasambhava, Yeshe Tsogyal, the main ones. On the Hindu side of things, we have Agastya, Lopamudra, Babaji, Mataji. Krishna, Radha. Taking refuge doesn't mean, okay, I take refuge, so Krishna, you handle my stuff. Doesn't mean that. It only means that I'm taking refuge in this particular master so that I can get support because I need it. And when you do that, you will get it. And another thing, I always speak of refuge and bodhicitta together as requirements to do any of these practices. Because you need to have that foundation, refuge and bodhicitta together. Also, ethics is really important. You can't be insincere and dishonest and not even 0.1% and expect to be successful in your practice. So that goes without saying. But bodhicitta is important for two reasons. It makes us mature, thinking of others. Our whole, as it is easy to understand that at the very core of our delusion and suffering and pain is the small self, is the self, me, I. So bodhicitta is a brilliant way to reverse that habit, that flow. Instead of struggling, me, I, happiness and freedom to all beings, and the energy starts flowing. The whole subtle system opens up, stretches open. Nadis actually, they can be twisted, entangled, but it's like combing long hairs, entangled hairs, and opening them. And that's how the aura opens when generating bodhicitta. And we can feel it. So opening the subtle body, opening the mind, opening the energies is one part of important part of bodhicitta, reason to practice bodhicitta. But another one is the maturation aspect. Like really, actually becoming a compassionate person. And compassion, while part of compassion is that of listening, offering help, sharing what you have, being generous, being available, being kind, understanding. But it's not only that. Dharmic compassion is never separate from discrimination. In other words, it's never separate from clarity of mind. The rainbows in the sky are never separate from clear drops of water. So, dharmic compassion it's very particular. It's not sometimes the term fool's compassion is said. It's not that. Not this fluffy, ha 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 ha, oh, I'm so here for you. Oh, discrimination is there. Which means that sometimes compassion takes Manjushri, one of the two main Buddhas of Mahayana Dharma, holds a sword. That sword is a symbol for discrimination, that clarity of mind. Sometimes compassion takes dynamic form. Sometimes we need to face in ourselves things that are very unpleasant. And that's the whole path, isn't it? Admitting to ourselves that, oh, I really fucked up there. I was really an asshole doing that, thinking that. Or sometimes you need to say that to others. If and when we notice that that's not, something is off. So, refuge and bodhicitta, very, very important, fundamental. So with our physical bodies, with our astral bodies, causal bodies, with all three bodies, with our whole being, let's take refuge in the Guru. You can think of a single Guru, you can think of two if you want. Taking refuge in the Guru with our whole being. Taking refuge in Guru Padmasambhava, in Yeshe Tsogyal, in Agastya, in Lobamudra, in Babaji, Mataji, Krishna, Radha. Taking refuge. Secondly, taking refuge in the abodes, in pure lands, in the places where our gurus reside. In the case of Guru Rinpoche, it is Sangdok Palri or Pemako, his pure land, his ashram in the subtle realms. In the case of, there are different places related to Hindu masters. Vaikuntha is one related to both Krishna and Agastya. But regardless of particular place, taking refuge in the abodes of our Mahasiddha Gurus. Why? Because if we don't finish practice in this body, in this life, this is a way to go directly to the places where our beloved Gurus are, to finish our practice there, without getting lost and without needing to take immediately some random rebirth. And then, thirdly, taking refuge in the Buddha, in the pure nature, Buddha nature of all things and beings, including our own Buddha nature, taking refuge in ourselves. Fourthly, taking refuge in the Dharma, taking refuge in the method that offers us so-called view or theory that we apply in practice through practices that leads to the ultimate result. Also means instructions from our teachers, from our gurus. So taking refuge in the teachings of our teachers, more widely taking refuge in the teachings of masters, finding that support, understanding that it's an actual support and it's an actual vehicle from confusion and pain to great perfection. And fifthly, taking refuge in the Sangha. Sangha means community, group. Taking refuge in a group, in a community. Dharmic community, the community of Bodhi, awakening, enlightenment. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Lots of communities seem very samsaric. So it also gives each one of us, members of our Sangha, responsibility to practice the Dharma well, correctly, so that our community really is a community of actual awakening, actual body. Bodhi, Bodhi. And then, and only then, we can really find refuge in it. Another way to think about Sangha is to think of the so-called Maha Sangha, a great community which simply means all sentient beings. Though with the help of understanding that all sentient beings are essentially Buddhas. We cannot find refuge, dharmic refuge, in deluded beings. Refuge is something, threefold refuge usually. In Amrita Mandala we have fivefold refuge. But it is something that is discussed in most Dharma books, I think. But as you can feel, when we take refuge like this, there is immense meaning in it. The actual experience of finding refuge after taking refuge, well, it is an actual experience. It makes our energy shift. So it is not only some fancy words and fancy concepts. Everything about authentic Dharma is real, is actual. And everything about authentic Dharma can be verified as real and not merely as fantasy. So now that we took refuge, considered each of the 5 refuges one by one, let's generate Bodhicitta. May all beings find refuge, find a safe place to be. May all beings be happy and free. Truly, really, I wish. May all beings be free and happy. In the most fundamental meaning of the word. Not only superficial happiness, but deep, thorough happiness. True freedom. Freedom from the deluded self. Freedom from samsara. May all beings have that. Find that. Get that. Discover that. But there is second part to Bodhicitta, and both parts are as important. So now we were transmitting outwards, wishing liberation, freedom, happiness, ease away from us, like some kind of radio transmitter transmitting away from us, right? So that's one part, one function of bodhicitta. Second is receiving. Not only sending out, but receiving and taking in. Taking in what? Pain, confusion, hurt. The sense of all sentient beings being lost. Taking it in and being available for it. If you are new to practice, it can feel like a terrifying idea. That's definitely not what I want to do. And that's fine. Take your time. Take your time. But when it comes to becoming Buddhas, like we discussed, true compassion is being available. Listening. Avalokiteshvara, the name of the Buddha of compassion, means the Lord, Ishvara, who hears or listens to the cries that are coming from below him or her. Listens to the cries that are coming, not being indifferent or blocking away, but is available. And this is very important to remember in the middle of purifying our nadis, perfecting our bhumis, opening them, purifying our astral bodies, revealing the original body of light. It's kind of easy for this fundamental point to kind of get a little dim, but it's the most important point. All the practices and techniques and channels and deities are merely a commentary to this essential point. A wonderful commentary and extremely precious, but without bodhicitta and refuge, it becomes secondary. All that becomes secondary. So be available to those cries coming out of existential anguish, confusion, delusion, all those samsaric states that follow, states of mind that follow. Be available for it, to it, on meditation cushion and in the actual physical world. Suffering is real. So find ways, think of ways how to bring Dharma, bring the really basic and simple teaching or energy to beings around us, to people around us. Meditate where people can see you. Organize opportunities for people to learn and practice the Dharma. Group with fellow practitioners, practice together. Print flyers, put them out somewhere. Do something. Bodhicitta in practice. We are in physical body, so we cannot ignore physical activities and actions. Sentient beings, deluded beings don't pop out from samsara, from the endless wheel of rebirth and suffering, out of coincidence. There is a cause to liberation, to enlightenment, and that cause is Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. In Buddhist terms, according to Buddhist terminology. So we should, as bodhisattvas, as practitioners who have taken bodhisattva vows, create that cause for others. This is our responsibility. It comes with being a bodhisattva. So listening, feeling into our surroundings, whether we are sitting at home alone, or whether we are sitting meditating in a park or somewhere in public, feeling into the suffering. It is not complex, because it is everywhere in this realm. that very same thing that we learn with the 2PF in the second mode, self-based mode, that very energy, that sensation, no matter if you go to the middle of a jungle, beautiful jungle with lots of fresh energy, fresh life, even from there you can tune to people who are stuck in samsara, even if they are 1,000 kilometers away, and become Avalokiteshvara, hearing the cries, listening to the cries, and offering our hearts, taking all of that to our hearts, letting it in to our hearts. So if this is a completely new practice to you, Tonglen, it's called receiving and giving, Tonglen, one of the core practices of Mahayana Bodhicitta Dharma. So when you finally get used to the idea and it starts making sense to you that, right, making myself available for others makes sense. It starts making sense. Then what to do? You start listening, you start hearing, and you welcome that suffering, that energy of suffering, right into the middle, inside your chest, to the heart. Inside head, inside heart, and inside gut, there are these pure centers, Mahasiddha bhumis, inside the body space. So when the suffering actually arrives to the heart, this pure center, this Mahasiddha bhumi there always remains pure. And when the energy of suffering touches it, it gets transformed into pure light, and it radiates back out automatically. So all we need to do is to allow and welcome it to our hearts, and this will automatically, the transformation will happen. And it feels fantastic. If you are a bit advanced, you have confidence in your own Buddha nature, you know that, oh, yes, totally, I have this pure nature, and you're recognizing it, you're living it, then you can take in that suffering into your whole body, to gut, to head, to limbs, whole body. And same happens. Gets spontaneously transformed, these dirty energies, dirty hues, HUE, transform into pure light and radiates back out. So if I summarize my instructions, in the beginning you can just listen and kind of just get a feel how it sounds like, how it feels like. That's step number one. Step number two, allow it into your heart. And it transforms. Step number three, take it into your whole body. And again, it gets transformed. People of your village, people of your city, your country, continent, whole world. And to make it more intimate, to make it worse, little joke, well, you can think of all the ways people suffer. Of everything that goes around in the world. Individual confusion, cultural, societal confusion, constant struggle, conflicts, from small to big to huge. All of that starts with the thought of I, me, mine. All of that starts from there. Cruelty, abuse, Through my heart, through our hearts, may all the suffering and pain of the world transform into pure light, bright light, white light, rainbow light, with the clarity of a diamond in all minds, in all hearts. And just like with all other practices, there is external doing something followed by internal. When the energy charge becomes so strong that it takes a hold of you, hugs you, embraces you. Same thing with Tonglen.